For weeks, this podcast covered the fallout, no pun intended, of the Fukushima nuclear disaster. Okay, the pun was intended. Now we have the first direct, reliable measurements of how much radiation children in the area were exposed to, and it wasn't much. The Japanese government tested over 1,000 children from the evacuation zones and had cleared them of all health problems. Now, after much demand from parents and radiation experts, the Japanese government has provided more details. According to the Wall Street Journal, of the 219,000 residents tested, none had showed levels of radiation high enough to be of concern. But children, who are smaller and still growing, are more prone to long-term damage from radiation. But the Nuclear and Industrial Safety Agency has said that the levels that the children received were below the levels known to lead to adverse health effects. An independent expert at the Research Institute for Radiation Biology and Medicine at Hiroshima University concurred, saying, quote, "I think the possibility of these children developing thyroid cancer is extremely low. Thyroid cancer is by far the biggest long-term concern with radiation poisoning from nuclear plants because of the high amounts of radioactive iodine which are absorbed by the thyroid." However, he did caution that some of these elements would have disintegrated before the testing was done. Most of the children will be fine. 55% showed no measurable exposure at all, and 26% showed exposure levels of 0.01 microsievert per hour. By comparison, 0.2 microsieverts is the level considered a health risk, so these children only received 1/20th of that amount. As for the rest of the children, 11% had 0.02 microsievert, 4.7% 0.03 microsievert, 4.7% 0.03 microsievert, and 1.4% 0.04 microsievert. The highest measured dose was 0.1 microsievert, half the amount considered a health risk. The agency said they would continue to monitor the health of these children over time. As for the adults, 28,000 of them were considered to be high risk, and they were offered whole-body radiation scans. So far, 2,000 of them have been scanned, but none of them showed any signs of any health concerns. This is good news, after all the fear and uncertainty, and yes, even alarmism, in the press surrounding the disaster. But apparently it's not over yet. Between the time this story was prepared for this podcast and the recording, the Wall Street Journal changed their headline for this story from "Japan tests show low exposure in kids" to "Japan says children exposed to radiation," and added the line, "Survey of youths near stricken plant raises concerns over long-term health." What irresponsible reporting! As anyone reading the article can see, there are no indications of anyone having any adverse health effects. And yet, commenters to the story, who clearly did not read the article, were saying things like, "This is real bad news. What a tragedy. This is really bad." And, "Wake up, Japan." What is it about our news media that they feel they have to keep us in a constant state of fear and alarm? Even when there's good news such as this, they just have to go and distort it. Shame on you, Wall Street Journal.